ladies ready? Yes. Let's go. We got lots of comments today. Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the Nashville MTA board meeting. First thing on our agenda is the approval of the August 22nd minutes.
If I can move. Second.
Any comment?
Other than there.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next on our list is public comments, and I'll just remind those giving public comments that there is a 3-minute limit, and we'll get started with it. So, Mr. Thomas, you ready? If you're not ready, I can come back to you. You good?
How y'all doing?
How are you, Mr. Thomas?
Better than I was almost a month ago. Just got basically one concern is the access drive van number 362. I noticed on the 12th of last month that the passenger side headlight was out. When lights are on vehicles, especially when it comes to buses and vans, it's a pretty major issue. Because even with cars, back when I was younger, if you had a light out, they'd pull you over, give you a ticket. And other than that, you got some great drivers out there. The ones I like are the one that picks me up around 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and I start waiting his job by the time we head downtown. He's a pretty cool guy. When he gets released at 2 o'clock, James does the evening run, pick me up at 8:15 down here. He's pretty cool. In fact, this past Tuesday, I gave him a whole tray of grapes and 3 bags of apples take to the break room for the bus drivers.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Bull. John Bull.
Thank you all.
Hello, Mr. Bull.
I'm a frequent rider. It's 4 to 8 times a day, typically. Live at 370 Wallace Road, South Nashville District, 30. 3 items. The transition plan, the survival guide is priceless. I like the way y'all are implemented in person. For example, Route 20 down here, I was changing onto it, and somebody came by wearing a purple and white shirt and handed out the survival guide and made sure that people had that information. And you can't do much better than that. No. The presentation on the neighborhood transition centers, that's I frankly have never seen a crosstown connector, circular connector that I don't like. For example, I went to the community meeting center in Antioch, and from my place at Southern Hills Hospital, close by there, had to go into town, then all the way back to Antioch, 100 minutes one way. Yeah, I think the crosstown connectors, neighborhood centers are a really good shot. And the last thing, the new signage at the main bus station here are just really work for somebody who got vision problems, and even people who don't. It's good. You can see where you're going. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. Mr. O'Connor, Peter O'Connor. Hello, Mr. O'Connor.
Everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, since I'm back from my trip, I can say I'm back.
Hope you had a good trip.
Yeah, it looks pretty decent. I don't have much in the way of complaints at the moment, but give me a little time. Anyway, the things I do want to mention, as I usually pester everybody about, I know that with budget cuts things are tough, but still, you've got many people out there that once customer service closes, the buses are still running, people out there still needing information for one thing or another. And so, as I usually keep pestering everybody about, we still need to extend bus hours and to a much later time and match those hours with customer service. So at the moment, that's all I've got. But like I said, you know,
Thank you. Tracy Wood. Thank you. I'll just give you. I should just let you run.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having this meeting. I was just informed yesterday that this took place, I believe, for Thursday of the month, and woohoo, I got my lucky day today. I'm just really concerned about timing with the buses. That's the, I started running the bus in February, and I love it, and I promote it so much, and I think it's just so needed in our city, especially with our city growing. And it's so economical because you can buy a 60-day pass or a 30-day pass for $60, you know, give or take, $2 a day, you know, full fare. And so it's just, you know, as a driver, since I was, you know, 16 years old and have my own vehicle, and I still do, I just love mass transportation. However, timing is everything, and connectors. And when buses leave early, when you first come to Nashville, how do you know? You read. You read either the forms that are written down, or you look online. And so when you're here at Music, when you're right here at the hub, and the bus leaves 2 minutes early, how is that possible? Why is that happening? So that's a concern of mine. And it's not happened once, it's happened twice, 3 times. Yeah, right here, but it's happened other places in the city. And I have documentation, so I just keep notes. I keep notes of every bus number, what route, what time of day. I'm a former teacher for Metro, so, you know, documentation is everything. So I really want to promote the bus. I don't want to, you know, complain about it. So I want to be part of the solution, not problem. And so that's just a major concern of mine. It's just trying to figure out time, because now the bus is late. I totally understand for traffic, things like that. Now the Move It app is wonderful because it will tell you, like the other day I was on the 8th, at Wedgwood and 8th, and it said, you know, delayed 12 minutes. Okay, so then I just leave people around me and just talk and whatever, you know, and so, because things happen, when the bus comes early, you know, there's just nothing you can do, because you're like, I mean, it's not even that I'm not here, I mean, I was physically here, and it took off 2 minutes early, so I just don't understand if there's something that can be done. I would love it, but no, I just really love WeGo, and I'm just a little cheerleader for, like, let's just all get on the bus, so thank you.
Thank you. Richard Forberg.
Thank you. I was really pleased about the presentation on the transit centers. Some of you may recall I was quite excited about that when it was first announced to you were launching that consulting contract to get it going. I had a few thoughts in listening to the presentations today. There is, I see, an attempt to try to get close to retail establishments and that you have an indoor shelter with a restroom for the driver, but you should try to get retail to really commit to be there, and maybe they can provide more restrooms so that riders can have restrooms as well, and maybe have more indoor space if you don't have enough retail adjoining you. You need to be sure that the drop and ride area next to you is large enough, or maybe if you can't make it large enough initially, there's room to expand it someplace. Like for the Hillsborough Center, maybe think about getting some parking lot space across the way in the shopping mall, and eventually building a pedestrian bridge across there. Obviously, park and ride isn't what you're going to do in that area. It's too dense, too expensive. But drop and ride, you can get a lot more Hillsborough residents who are willing to pay $2 for a short Uber Lyft ride, and then they can conveniently get to the bus a lot. And then you can do that in other places as well. You might often need both sides of the road, because in areas where it's really busy, you don't want passengers crossing the road a lot. It's dangerous and slows things down. More neighborhood centers, do more of these at high schools, at hospitals, in neighborhoods that have a weak neighborhood center. You put a transit center there, that can become an important center for that neighborhood. Create a center, and then it revolves around transit. That's the way you're ultimately going to get a lot of transit riders when they just see, hey, I'm here. My pharmacy's here. My little store I like to go to is here. My barber's here. I can do my business going to or from work easily. And if I can't walk, I can catch an Uber Lyft home. And then Steve will work out some deal where it's really cheap, you know. So, and those rides, actually, one of the things somebody said, can you charge these third parties to come in? Well, you may not be able to do that, but you could have Metro say, well, during rush hours or these particular hours of the days, yes, these third party TNCs can come in here, but you got to take 2 separate parties. You can't just pick up one party. You got to make them shared rides, which will lower the cost. They'll get more shared rides that way. It's always easier to do shared rides if it's point to multi-point or that rather than anywhere to anywhere. So this is a way you can actually start doing more shared rides and reducing congestion. To that point, you need more of these. Like I said, you should probably have them more, some also regional ones near major highway interchanges. You did mention that. But that's a natural place where people have to go anyway for their longer commutes to support the RTA structure. So RTA should really, and I guess some of them are planned for RTA. And a final thought, I already talked to Michael Briggs and Lucy Kemp in the planning department about, is there some way they could help you get these spaces reserved from developers? And so if a developer comes in and says, I want to build a 20-story building, and they say, well, you're really only zoned for 15, and then they say, well, maybe we might give you those extra 5 stories if you also decide to make a contract, a 30-year contract with the MTA for Transit Center. They'll help you do that.
Okay.
Go ask them.
Thank you for coming. Sheila Hanson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Talk like an auctioneer here. Bus stop number 1348, which is the Old Hickory Boulevard and Hickory Plaza Drive stop. I mentioned it last month about the bus stop sign missing. It's still not replaced. Pretty please, especially with these new bus drivers coming in, you know, every time you change the routes, you know, there might be a bus driver who's not familiar. Oh, that's not a stop because there's not a sign there. I've run into that before in different places. Also, with the the schedule changes, there's always new drivers, and at the Dollar General stop where they sit and lay over, every time, every 6 months, I have at least 1 or 2 of these conversations where a driver wants me to get off the bus while he's doing his layover, and if it's bad weather or I'm carrying a bunch of stuff and don't want to walk home with it, I don't want to get off the bus and stand there and then get back on, and then there's been 1 or 2 that have wanted me to pay again, and no, that's, you know, we've already had this conversation with them. So could you please just make the drivers aware of this? You know, that don't, you know, if I'm getting off 2 stops later, don't make me get off, and not just me, but anyone. Also, the non-ADA compliant Dollar General stop, just a reminder. I've got notes here so you can read it. The new bigger sign is here. Hallelujah. I can actually see the number 21 bay sign from number 19. I used to be able to have to walk, stand 3 feet away from it to see them. And so I like that. My phone's been blowing up lately with canceled number 60 buses. I know you're canceling the number 60, but I'm just saying the number 60 will not run during an incident route, and I found out it's because of a driver shortage. I'm just wondering why that is.
1 minute, Miss Hanson.
Okay, Crosstown Transit Centers, hallelujah. I have on my notes the same thing that was mentioned by someone else. Restrooms for the drivers is awesome. They deserve it. But the passengers will need restrooms too. And my work is moving. October 14th, I'm not going to be downtown anymore. I'm a member of the National Federation of the Blind. We have our meetings streamed on Facebook, live streamed. Is there any thoughts on doing that with these meetings? If not, it's a suggestion. So I'm gonna miss you guys.
No,
I might make it here and there, but you know, occasionally. But I can't come in every time anymore.
Well,
That's thinking.
continue to reach out to us in the other ways that you
Oh,
can.
absolutely, I will.
Oh.
This isn't the last you've heard. And I've got a little map regarding the bus stops.
Thank you, Miss Hanson.
Thank you.
Mr. Knight, Darius Knight.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Today, it's pretty much the same issue. I've grown frustrated. I've grown tired. I'm tired of being repetitive and repeating myself. We have a problem with our maintenance. I'm not gonna blame the current person that's in the position because he didn't create the problem. This problem has been here since like 2015, since even before Rick came into a hellhole situation. And it hasn't gotten any better. And even though we have well over 40 something new buses between the 1800s, 1900s, and 1700s, they're breaking down and they're new. Sometimes they come in with issues. Rick had that problem last year. Not really sure what Gillick's issue is since they've moved into their new facility, but it really shows that the quality of their vehicles has gone completely down. My suggestion to you would be to look at New Flyer or to the Raggedy Company Nova. They're not any better, but I mean, you gotta do something. This status quo of letting our customers just stand at bus stops or just wait for a bus and then cancel it internally. And then at those stops that don't have display signs to let the customers know that the route has been canceled, I feel like that's disrespectful and unfair. Because again, we do have elderly people who do not use smartphones, so they're not gonna know. Unless someone younger with a smartphone is at that stop who lets them know what's going on. Now, when it comes to some issues that I have had, people have questioned me being honest about certain issues that I've brought up, and that's not the first time. I take pictures and videos. I keep emails. I do everything I need to do to make sure that I have documentation of whatever issue there is. So a few months ago, I came to this board and I had an issue because I had spoke to a driver that drives the 56 route who works overtime almost 3 days out of the week, and she does not have to. She does it to make sure that the customers get where they need to be. She also likes the money that she gets for working overtime. But at the same time, if that driver's working overtime and she's not getting paid, and she's going through the channels in which she's supposed to, and those staff members are not doing their job to make sure that they're getting paid, that affects all of the customers. Y'all tend to forget, if your driver is not happy, they quit. What is happening? You all keep doing these hiring events, you get the drivers to come in who are typically newer or younger, they don't stay. The problem is we need to come up with a dedicated way of figuring out how to treat these drivers, but we also need to look at other methods and respecting those drivers and the customers as well. So I ran into that problem again recently, and the driver is pissed about what is going on because staff laughed at him. Someone shot at his bus with a paintball gun, and the staff thought it was funny, so he's having nightmares in which he had to call out. So when he went to the staff about it and went to his union rep, oh, well, we went there, we're gonna do X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. I just happened to be on the bus and actually overheard his conversation at mine. So I told him that he is respected and that I would speak up on his behalf and bring it to staff's attention. So I do have some things to provide to the board members, as well as pictures of these issues with these buses. Just happened to be on one a few days ago. The seat broke and I could have went into the actual engine. So I told the driver, and he basically told me that he was gonna let them know, but they continue to allow the bus to move on in its actual service. So please correct these problems, otherwise you're gonna lose your drivers and your customers.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Copies for each of us.
Oh, that's your time.
Share. Yeah, Hannah's over here controlling my timer over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Carla Rodriguez Cabana, did I say that correctly? You're up.
Okay, well, my name is Carla Rodriguez Cabana. I'm excited of being here. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to talk about volunteer program. I think it will be really good for MTA to have volunteer program. I've been using buses here. I was in Mount Juliet. We don't have public transportation in Mount Juliet, for example. Compared with Nashville, it's really good. We have transportation here. Being a volunteer, without the title, sometimes trying to help with the cleaning, in the bus. It would be really helpful for the drivers, I think, honestly. You can listen to them and think about other opportunities for helping them. Okay, probably cleaning outside could be the first thing, and then we can include other kinds of volunteers. Well, I just reviewed this, and I think it will be good because when considering the report before, the other guy, what he said, it will be good considering the voice and the volunteers opportunities. The other thing is, well, I'm a mom of 3 kids, 9, 6, and 1. I'm a godmother also, so I love children. I love put a lot of kids together. I remember my childhood going to museums together in after-school programs. I love the experience. So the problem that I have now, trying to replicate the experiences that I had in my childhood here, is transportation. So I love the idea in the Frieze Museum. So they have a form for the visits, school visits or group visits to the museum. So they also have a group that the opportunity to review paying the transportation. So it will be good also for revenue, okay, for incomes here, to consider the formats that the Frieze Art Museum has, and probably we will replicate those things in other museums. So I said connecting parks and museum because probably, thinking about corporate social responsibility, I'm thinking about my personal social responsibility, being a godmother, taking a bunch of kids. I will need transportation. I will need your help in order to be with them at the Adventure Science Center or Frieze Museum or any kind of other museums. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is all the public comments that I have at this time. Are there any other public comments? Anyone else wishing to make a public comment that have not given me a form? Okay. That closes the public comment section. Thank you all so much for providing us with your input. We do appreciate it. Next on our agenda, Hannah.
Well, so we have an action item. But hang on, I gotta find it first. I was so into public comments. This is a resolution for fiscal year 2020 annual grant applications, and the recommendation is that we adopt the attached resolution that's in our board manuals, that we authorize the applications for 3 different funding and state and local matches. There's number 5307, 5339, and 5310. That we authorize the submittal of the application for state operating assistance and authorize the submittal of applications and execution of contracts for any other federal, state, and local grant funding that may become available during fiscal year 2020 for the benefit of the Nashville MTA. And so since I decided, as the only, with myself, as the only member of the operations committee, I decided to pass. No. I decided to recommend it to the board.
Okay.
So now what do we do? Since it's a recommendation of a committee, do we have to vote?
This is a recommendation of the committee, and yes, we do have to vote. Well, we can just laugh about it. I don't really know.
See what he thinks about it.
He thought I was a stitch. That's what he thought.
His phone will just start laughing at you. I don't really know what that means. So here's what we do here. We have a recommendation from the committee, but we must still vote on it. We just don't need a second.
We don't need a second.
We don't need a second. Pardon?
So do we need a motion then?
No, I have power.
No, it's a recommendation that comes in front of you. So since we have a recommendation, it doesn't require a second or anybody to make a motion. It's just a recommendation from committee, but you still have to vote on the recommendation for the committee. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank
Any
you, Glenn.
opposed? No opposed, your motion carries. See, that was just a little quick Robert's Rules of Orders, wasn't it? I just love it. Yeah, I have a little cheat sheet I use sometimes, but it's all good. So, anything else you want to report on from your committee of you today?
It's just tough to be this inspirational.
It is.
It's a mantle I bear.
And humble.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pass it on over to my friend Janet Miller.
Thank you, Miss Hannah.
Oh, so inspired. Now,
Yes.
inspire us.
I will try to inspire you. So we had a good, nice committee meeting, had a great presentation from staff on neighborhood transit centers, big investments, big improvement with crosstown routes and all. So we'll have a lot more of that coming to us, but thank you for that presentation. And then we also have one item for approval by the board, which is the Title VI program update for 2019. And this is to be sure that we are adhering to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 with regard to being sure our service is equitable, that we have equitable service, and that race, color, and national origins are not used in any discriminatory way. So the team kind of went through how we have been doing that. I thought the best thing is that we don't treat this as a once every 3-year deal, but whenever we do a service change, we take a look at the Title VI impacts, which I think is great. They had a public comment period where they took comment from the public, did a review, and essentially found that we are in adherence to the FTA guidelines and in most cases exceed the requirements for the FTA. So with that, it was a good discussion. So the committee of Mr. Farmer and myself would like to recommend that the board approves the 2019 update to the Title VI program, which will then be submitted to the FTA in October. So there you go.
And that is a recommendation of the committee, so that means we don't need a
Second.
motion
Or
or a
motion.
second,
Or a second.
but just the recommendation comes from the board for approval.
Such a troublemaker.
I know, right? It's just it's nice to teach though every now and then. So anyhow, that being the recommendation of the committee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion carries. Thank you very
Great.
much.
That concludes our report. We're nice.
Well, awesome, so much. I don't have really much at all for my chair's report. I'm excited about the neighborhood hubs. I just think it's, one more step of innovation in how we do transit in Nashville and how we reach our communities in more meaningful ways and really meet communities where they are. So I'm pretty excited about the work that's being done, and I can't wait for the first one to sort of be there for us to sort of move from. So kudos on the work that's being done for that. And so just appreciative, as always, of the hard work that everyone at WeGo does and brings to the table. Congratulations to Steve for your CEO hire. And welcome aboard.
Everybody keeps
COO.
referring to him as CEO.
I don't know. It's the CEO, CFO, COO.
Especially when the board chair says.
We're keeping him
I
on
know. I know. So I apologize for that because I just replaced you, didn't I? I sort of replaced you, didn't I?
That one little letter makes a big difference.
I know, COO. But I'm not, just like, I'm not the numbers person either. Like, I want to know the names of routes, not the number of routes. And these initials, then I got to sit there and think COO. Then I got to say every name out, but then I messed it up. So, Chief Operating Officer, welcome, Bill. Pleasure to have you here. Look forward to working with you in any way as the Chief Operating Officer. I ain't gonna mess that up anymore. Then get called out about it, right?
Scare him every now and then.
I know, right.
Good. Keeps him on his toes.
So I'm gonna turn this over to the Chief Executive Officer, Steve Bland, for his CEO report. A, B, C, D, F, G. Here you
Yes,
go.
Glenn, I know you have to leave. I won't take it personally.
Maybe if you didn't ask all those questions during Jan's
I know.
report, you could
Yeah,
say,
there it is. It's a lot of
I don't know what is wrong with us today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Bye, Glenn.
I'll just call your attention, as Hannah talked about in her report, to pages 11 and 12 in the Operations and Finance Committee book of our upcoming procurements. We always encourage that we get maximum participation in those procurements, and particularly from our diverse business community. Gail mentioned in her remarks our introduction of Bill Miller, our new Chief Operating Officer. I want to personally welcome Bill now to Nashville and to the MTA. Probably the worst kept secret in town. He and I used to work together in Pittsburgh, and frankly, independent of him being in this job, I consider him one of the best transit operations people in the country. So I think we're extremely lucky. We're sorry to see India leave and wish her well. Last week was her first week in Cleveland, but it worked out extremely. There's some grand plan by somebody other than me that she happened to, her leaving coincided with Bill retiring from Pittsburgh, and he, and more important, his wife being huge country music fans. So
there you go.
We're anxious for his work, and I know I'm already getting positive reports from an awful lot of people. You heard alluded to several times over the course of the day, preparations for this Sunday service changes. Huge amount of work that's gone into it, from the original conceptions and the work that planning did through to what customer care and our outreach folks are doing now. You heard one of our speakers address the issue of, we were all out handing out information, answering questions. The survival guide really has been, I've gotten a lot of positive remarks about it. Having said all that, and there's a lot of behind the scenes work, redoing driver picks, having drivers pick new runs, reprogramming our head signs and our enunciators, tagging about. You probably, if you've been around town, you've seen stickers on, what's it, about 1,000 bus stops that are either getting new routes, changed routes, or will not be served by routes anymore. And ultimately, after those changes go into effect, that same crew will go in and either replace or remove or modify signs. So huge amount of work. Having said all that, and having this not be my first rodeo, I know come Sunday and Monday morning, there will be people out there who say, why didn't anyone ever tell me that this was happening? So we will get calls, we will get complaints, you will likely hear about that. In some cases, there will be folks who have let us know that they're not happy about the changes, and we clearly understand that. In other cases, as they get used to it, some will see, well, it A, wasn't as bad as I thought, or potentially even in some cases, even an improvement. So I just wanted to publicly thank really all staff, because there literally isn't anybody in the organization who hasn't been involved in that, and appreciate your efforts. And we'll get through the next couple weeks, and then it'll smooth out, and we can go back to talking long-term and improvements. Relative to the service changes, and it kind of ties into the conversation about transit centers and connectors. I know one of the complaints I hear pretty routinely is, why do you have that big bus running through my neighborhood? So as a result of the service changes and converting a couple of routes to Crosstown and Circulator that had previously come all the way into downtown, our peak vehicle requirement goes down from 157 to 139. But we're actually reducing the large bus contingent even more and tripling the number of small buses, those vans we have out on those routes. That'll go from 4 to 12. So on some of those neighborhood routes, like the 33, the 21, the 25, you will start to see smaller vehicles, because we will be able to absorb those passenger demands on those. You heard about our operator shortage. Obviously the operator shortage becomes much less acute, effective next week. We go from being about 40 operators short to about 6 operators short. So despite the fact that we are reducing service levels, we are still hiring. I want to congratulate Rita, HR, her folks, and folks in operations who are involved. We did a hiring fair earlier this week, a terrific turnout, and in fact we were able to extend offers to 5 new operators and 4 general helpers in the maintenance area. This past Saturday, one of the most fun events happened, one of our most fun annual events, our annual bus and maintenance rodeo out at the Myatt facility. Got great turnout. I think we had probably about 18 or 20 operators registered in the competition, several mechanics, and an awful lot of volunteers to judge, to DJ, to you name it, on this event. So really good event. We were blessed with wonderful weather. It started to get really hot about the time we finished up, so had great weather for it. And I'm pleased to announce that in the paratransit division, Shunta Johnson placed third, Juanita Whitmore placed second, Joyce Banks, one of our perennial competitors, placed first.
Is that all women?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
You noticed that, didn't you?
I did.
Right on it.
There you go. Girl power.
35 bus
We can
division,
drive.
35-foot bus division will start to encroach on your territory again. Kevin Sentis, Kevin Sentis placed third, Eric Liggett placed second, Michael Featherston placed first. In the 40-foot bus division, Joyce Banks placed third, Mark Johnson placed second, and Michael Featherston placed first. Troy Willis and Pedro Ochoa placed first and second in the bus maintenance division, and Christopher Brown won our band maintenance division. So our top two placing competitors in each class will compete in Chattanooga in October for the TIPTA State Rodeo Championship, and the winners of that from our class will compete next spring in San Antonio at the National Bus Rodeo.
So this is the thing you
I
don't
love
know
bus
exists.
rodeos. I love
You don't
watching
know
it.
it exists unless you're on the board.
Yep.
You know what I
I
mean?
mean, they're fun to watch. I don't know.
They're super exciting to watch about the first two, and then after that they kind of get. Although Bill and I got to stand right where they do the diminishing clearance, where they come speeding down into the barrels, and we wonder whether we're going to get hit with a barrel. Everybody stopped short of the barrel, so you can be pleased to know we have safe folks. I want to thank our procurement department. They joined me at TSU this past couple weeks. It was a joint conference that was held by U.S. Department of Transportation, the U.S. Small Business Administration, to put on a lot of workshops for small and minority businesses on essentially how to do business with the government. So we participated with folks like the airport, TDOT. There were banks on hand and leasing people on hand to kind of give people clues. And I know it's been a major initiative under Rita's leadership in our procurement department to increase and enhance our business diversity program. So our procurement reps who were there got to speak to even more minority and small businesses to get them into our pool. So I really appreciate the efforts by the procurement department. Kind of alluded to earlier, Trey and I attended a meeting of the Green Hills Alliance Board of Directors and got, frankly, universal support for the Hillsborough High School Transit Center project, including actually, a little bit surprisingly, but very pleasingly, originally when this project was conceived and started into design, we got expressions of concern from the Green Hills Mall about traffic flow, particularly the Q-jump, traffic signal phasing, to the point where they actually commissioned their own traffic impact study.
Except they don't do anything to traffic.
Careful.
Somebody I said that, but
remember, we take minutes. But I am pleased to report not only did their traffic impact study say that the effects would be negligible to even positive, but the mall manager was at the meeting and expressed full support on behalf of the mall for the project, and frankly wanted to partner with us on some things coming up.
yay.
We want to thank Trey and Lydia and the group in engineering, working with Public Works, Metro IT, and contractors on wrapping up our Murfreesboro Road Transit Signal Priority Project. Really, the only remaining issue is a couple of remaining software glitches in the signal control software. They are modifying and testing this week. They will bring it to the field next week. To be frank, the Director of Public Works, the Director of Metro IT, and I will be sending a cure letter to the vendor if we don't see those issues addressed. They're not what I would call, signals are working fine, there's no safety issues, but we are not seeing full optimization of that system until they get it fully operational. So I want to keep you up to speed on that. The last thing I have to report for MTA, and then I have the RTA issues, is we did have a meeting of the Access Passenger Advisory Committee yesterday. One of the issues they are taking up is the idea of potentially discounted passes for access. We have them on bus, but you essentially pay by the trip on access. So staff presented some information relative to what other cities are doing, and they'll continue that dialogue. And just very quickly, I try to keep you up to speed on the RTA items. We received the first of 4 rehabilitated locomotives into service. That locomotive is currently going through dynamic testing. Once that's completed and it's accepted into service, we will send the second locomotive off for rebuild. Working with HDR engineers on a feasibility study for STAR upgrades, specifically more trips on the STAR, and we expect to be reporting that out to the RTA board probably in November. At the request of Mayor Pitts of Clarksville, participated in the search committee for Clarksville Transit's new director, and as a committee we sent 3 candidates on for his consideration for a final offer. And then finally we're essentially wrapped up the plans and the designs for the expansion of the Mount Juliet parking ride lot on the STAR, about 100 additional spaces and some other upgrades, and we expect to be out to bid with that next month or 2. So other than that, Madam Chair, unless there are questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions for Steve?
No questions.
Okay. Any other new business?
Nope.
That's the case, then we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.